your world will know unendurable pain.
Welcome back, guys, to my review of the fall finale of Legends of Tomorrow Season 3. So initially I intended to say something around the lines of, that was a pretty good finale, it was great, it was so good. I mean, by Legend standard, it was actually so good. It was flawed, but nonetheless, it was really good. The reason I'm not gonna go for this raving though is that I watched Legends of Tomorrow, was about to do my review, then I watched The Flash. And the fall finale of The Flash just made the fall finale of Legends of Tomorrow look so insignificant in comparison. So instead of doing all that, all the raving and whatnot, I'm going to start off by addressing this one elephant in the room. Now, a lot of people have been wondering why DC have been borrowing a lot from the Marvel Universe. And that's really not the case. Like the Amazing Sticky Man and the Spidey references on the crossover, those were all just references. So basically what they're trying to do there is kind of a joke, like in a world where DC heroes are real, Marvel heroes still exist, only as fictional characters in comic books. On the other hand, on the fall finale Legends of Tomorrow, everyone started thinking the whole Asgard and Odin thing is right out of Marvel. But the heart of the matter really is, this is about Vikings. And when you're speaking of Vikings, you're expected to head into that zone of Norse mythology. And before there was Marvel or DC, there was Norse mythology, there was Odin, and there was Asgard. So that was not really borrowing or stealing out of Marvel Comics, but rather, that was an episode about Vikings and in return, Norse mythology. But regardless of that, that was not really a flaw of the episode, but there was really one big flaw out there. And as much as it came as part of a funny scene, I did laugh, and at the same time I wasn't really happy with it. And last week's episode of Legends of Tomorrow gave us a few extremely emotional moments. It all started with the death of Martin Stein, and then it went all the way up until his funeral. But then this episode sort of started in a manner that was sort of pissing all over that. It was quite annoying, the whole Leonard Snart with the Martin Stein puppet. I do understand they want to establish the new Leo, aka Citizen Cold, as part of the team, but that was not the right way to do it. Now, it was quite funny. It would have been quite the laugh out loud moment if it was a character that was not as significant as Martin Stein. But nonetheless, I'm not going to spend the entirety of this video complaining about that, because I need time to brag about being right about these two things. Now, a few weeks back, I did tell you all that Malice is probably some sort of spiritual or demonic being. And it seems I was right back then. I mean, I did use some stupid reasons right there, but nonetheless, I was right. And this episode, in a manner of speaking, kind of foreshadowed everything I've said. So back then, in a way, I've compared this season of Legends of Tomorrow to the first season of Sleepy Hollow. Then I went out of my way to compare villain names, Malice versus Moloch, and how they sound alike, which doesn't make any sense, by the way. But I'm guessing it was just the feel to the name. Now, a couple of days after I said all these things, they did announce that John Noble is gonna be voicing Malice. And the thing about John Noble, besides his amazing roles as Denethor and Walter Bishop on The Lord of the Rings and Fringe respectively, is that he portrayed the role of Henry Parrish on Sleepy Hollow. And over there, he was pretty much a minion of Moloch, and he does have the voice as well to portray such a demonic being. So the question that's probably on your mind right now is, how did this episode kind of foreshadow all of that I said before about Sleepy Hollow? Well, for one thing, this is the first time we've heard the voice of John Noble on Legends of Tomorrow as Malice. And coincidentally, the actress playing Freitas on this episode is none other than Katia Winter, the very same actress who portrayed Katrina Crane, Henry Parrish's mother, on Sleepy Hollow. And just like she did kneel to fake Dark Odin on this episode, essentially kneeling to Malice in a manner of speaking, she was as well imprisoned by Moloch on Sleepy Hollow, and she was willing to give in and kind of kneel in order to protect her son, Henry Parrish. But regardless of all of that, the whole Malice situation going on here kind of feels like something out of a Ghost Rider comic or a Constantine the Hellblazer comic. So it is kind of suiting that Constantine did show up on this episode when we came to realize to an extent that Malice is actually a demonic being. Now, while still on the subject of Malice, let's talk some Sara in the den or the dimension of Malice. I am Malice, soon I will be free, and your world will know unendurable pain. John Noble's voice there, it just sends shivers down your spine, so I'm kinda hoping we're gonna see him in the flesh on this season. Now, the other thing I really have to brag about here is that I was right about Ava Sharp and Sarah Lance. not really the husband kind. Now that statement kinda gave us a hint at what's to come between the two of them. The fact as well that she came back at the very end, just obeying orders and risking suffering a fate like that at Rips, that proves that there is something that's gonna go on between her and Sara. Also, and I'm not sure anyone else is getting this feeling, but she does seem like she's Sara's type. The way the character is written with the stuffed exterior just makes her sound a lot like Nyssa. However though, there was one thing I was actually wrong about, which is the fact that Ava Sharp works for Malice. Now the truth is, that is actually still a possibility, but nonetheless, I think it's a very minor possibility at the moment. But speaking of the rest of the details on this episode, number 1. Now I have watched season 1 of Vikings like years ago, so I'm not really sure if there are any references to Vikings. I mean, I think there are because Legends of Tomorrow wouldn't pass such an opportunity, but nonetheless, I have no clue about them. However though, the top reference, the best reference, my favorite reference on this episode was all about Arrow. I found it extremely funny that they used the Arrow soundtrack on that earlier scene with Martin trying to get a hold of the Beebo doll. And it got even funnier because all he was using there was a toy bow and a dart. I was literally rolling on the floor laughing. I think that is about the funniest thing this season on all 4 shows combined. Number 2 though, the dynamic between Mick, Rory and Leonard Snart, that was so much fun to watch and pretty funny at times as well. It all starts with Mick's drinking, Leo changing the programming of Gideon, and the fact that Mick thinks 2 days are 42 hours. Yes, math has taken a hit. But then we've got the fusion from the race from their guns when they're fighting Nora Darhk, and that was just like old times, wreaking havoc by combining the cold and the heat in their guns. Number 3. It would not be an Arrowverse week without something making a political pun or reference. And this week, it was all about global warming being real, which it is by the way. Number 4, Rip Hunter is in jail, and it seems like the Legends will have to rescue him sometime soon. It's also been made indirectly clear that some of the members of the Time Bureau have been bought off by none other than Damien Darhk. And speaking of Damien Darhk, number 5, Damien Darhk is making himself the anachronism. So initially the anachronism was Beebo and Beebo Day, but after Mick managed to shoot it into flames, the anachronism turned out to be Odin Day. And that was all about Damien Darhk claiming he was Odin. Now one thing about Damien Darhk on the season of Legends is he always comes with baggage, that baggage being his daughter, Nora Darhk. And considering Nora Darhk is portrayed by none other than Courtney Ford, wife to Brandon Routh who portrays Ray Palmer, I was looking forward to the first scene they get to have together. And the payoff was really good there. See, I told you, the Norse god costumes would work. I believe that was intended and was really funny considering the relationship they have in real life. Number 6. I believe this episode gave us a question that we need to think of an answer to. Why are the Legends actually running into themselves or into someone close to them repeatedly this season? I know Jackson kinda posed that question in order to find an excuse to warn Martin. However though, I'm not really sure that was all there is to it. I think that there's actually more and that this question is actually worth exploring, or the answer to it that is. Number 7. Jackson was kind of the star on this episode. I mean every one of them having that Christmas dinner at the very end, that was pretty good. But Jackson, he was just the star throughout this episode, just like he was since Martin died and all the way up to the funeral on the crossover. Now the bad thing here is that Jackson ends up leaving the team. The good thing though, is that there's a chance he will return, and it was a pretty good goodbye they had for him. His speech was really good as well. It was brief, yet it described everything we've watched on Legends of Tomorrow so far so well, how the team came together as misfits and ended up being these heroes. Finally though, number 8. Now Legends of Tomorrow is not gonna be returning with the rest of the shows, so basically we're gonna be getting the 10th episode of Supergirl on January 15th, we're gonna be getting the 10th episode of The Flash on January 16th, and on the 18th we're gonna be getting Arrow. Only Legends of Tomorrow is gonna be off the air till the 12th of February, and that's gonna be a Monday, so it's basically switching slots. Now in its time slot and on January 16th, Black Lightning is gonna be airing its series premiere. And it is pretty clear Black Lightning is gonna be maintaining that time slot as well for the rest of the season. I'm really looking to those weeks in which we're gonna have a shit ton of DC series airing in the same week. I think at some point we're gonna have like 10 DC TV series airing during the same week, if we include the Vertigo stuff as well. So basically it's gonna be Gotham and Fox, Lucifer and iZombie for Vertigo stuff, the 4 Arrowverse series, Black Lightning, and possibly Krypton. Those are like 9 DC and Vertigo TV series airing during the same week. Let alone as well there is Watchmen, which I haven't counted because I'm not sure when HBO is gonna be airing it. And don't even get me started on counting the Marvel stuff, which is basically more comic book stuff for the soul. But that's all I have on the finale of Legends of Tomorrow. It was pretty good, just not as good as the full finale of The Flash. So let me know in the comments what you thought of this episode. What do you think of Malice? How do you think all of this is gonna play out? Let me know as well if you did like the content of this video by dropping it a much appreciated like. And do remember, it is as well much appreciated if you do subscribe and enable notifications for my future videos. But until I see you next time, thank you all for watching and have a good one.